I would rather, and I've had this conversation with some people, say, look, see if they'll just pay you more in your check and get your own benefits elsewhere. Because the average person doesn't use all the benefits that are available. So if you're offering all these amazing features, one thing we've actually done with some clients is offer that as a benefit, and they have another benefit package they could take that has either the cash value and let them do it on their own.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. Big. Right? Cam, you got a big problem?
I got lots of big problems. Which one do you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, if we didn't have a guest, I guess we could hit at least half of one, knowing how big your problems are. Yeah, we run out of time, or I don't know whether it's time or my interest. It's probably the latter is what I would say. It's be like, yeah. You got anything else to bitch about? Life's tough. Life's tough.
Yep, just go get back to work, right?
What was I? Oh, I was talking with some guys in our Steel Men tribe call this morning, which somebody had to sleep through because they weren't feeling well. And it's not Matt, because Matt's not part of the Steel Men tribe. So that just leaves one other person. But anyway, it was funny how it wasn't anybody in the tribe. They were describing somebody else. I didn't get to do that, so why should you get to do that? You know, and one of them that flashes into my head, because I know somebody who's taken some advantage of it, is paternity leave. When the dad gets to take leave, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, apparently in the Army you can get 6 weeks of that shit, and it doesn't count against your normal 30 days. I don't know.
I saw a bid posted about that. Not Uncle.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about that. So Matt,
that's good. That's the modern Army, Dad.
yeah. That's well, not if Pete Hegseth has his way. Just got to say, you boys get back to work and back like in the old days. Matt, you got kids? Did you take paternity leave? Damn, I don't like that word. Did you take dad leave when you had kids?
You don't like it because it's not a real thing. So I don't. It's understandable.
Isn't that what alimony is? Paternity?
Unfortunately, yes. I realized my boss did not give me that in my benefit package as an entrepreneur. It turns out I don't get paternity leave. I also don't get sick days. I don't get PTO. I actually don't even get time off when work's done, because then you become a dad. So no, it's I've worked with clients with large organizations that are very, very publicly known who offer 6 months paternity leave with the assumption that no one will actually take it. And if you take it, you'll actually be kind of shunned. So it's just a concept of some of these large companies offering benefits that don't want people to take advantage of. So it gets even more absurd the larger it gets. So I did not take paternity.
It's the smoke and mirrors sales thing when looking for that talent. Hey, we've got a really special culture here that when you're 26, 27 and you get hired into Google, Camden and I might know somebody who fits this bill who got 6 months.
She does. I think she got like a year, honestly.
Yeah, it felt like a year as long as she was off. And they still brought her back, and she's right back in the swing of it. So when you're working with those sort of businesses, Matt, what advice do you give them? I mean, do you say, hey, scratch that policy right away before somebody takes it, or what?
So a couple things. We have in our agreement that if there's any dishonesty, we can bail anytime. Because with what we do, the nature of what we're doing and how we're serving people, we can't have inauthenticity from the top down, right? It will crush everything. I always say hypocrisy kills motivation, right? It always will. But in a situation like that where it's kind of understood, my question then goes away from the company and then to the employee, going, then why are you believing it? And if you're not concerned, then do what you feel is best. One of the things when we work with companies, again, those are, big, large, some of the biggest companies in the world. But when we're working with entrepreneurs or individuals who are actually managing the company that's on their back a little bit, I always make it very clear, don't overpromise on benefits. It's a garbage pitch. It's never valued the way it needs to be. Just be honest with what they get and bring the value and in the foundational company and the foundational business and development you're offering. So when I get into it, if a company is dishonest, our stuff doesn't work. And really nothing good works when there's dishonesty there.
Yeah, what came to mind to me talking about the paternity leave and that is the whole thing with the unlimited sick days and all that. It's like really what it does is it gives them a tax write-off where they don't have to, or I guess it gets rid of the tax write-off. I don't know. I'm not accountant. Either way, I know it's a bit of a loophole that it's a little bit of tongue in cheek when it comes to actually giving that a limited time off. And I love what you're saying of the not focusing on the benefits as like the pitching point. I would love if we could dive a little bit more into that. Because to me, that's one of those things. It's like, you got to get the paycheck. Paycheck's got to be, set the bar there. And then it's like good company culture, all that kind of stuff is really good. And then all these other things, like Dad, you always joke the kegerator and the ping pong table in the break room, the unlimited days off, all that kind of stuff. That tends to kind of fall away. Is that because we as the employees don't believe it, or because it's not actually valuable? What's your take on that, Matt?
I think part of it is, we offer it, but we don't want you to use it. It's kind of like, hey, that's the really nice bathroom, but the way we keep it really nice is no one uses it. Well, okay, then I don't care how nice it is if I can't use it. That's the first thing. And the second thing I think that comes of it is it's with good intention. Like, it's with good intention. It's just, unfortunately, Otis, this project we're working on, I know you just had a baby. I need you to not take advantage of that. The reason why I think benefits are overdone is because if anyone was wise enough as an employee to just do the math, I would rather, and I've had this conversation with some people, say, look, see if they'll just pay you more on your check and get your own benefits elsewhere. Because the average person doesn't use all the benefits that are available. So if you're offering all these amazing features, one thing we've actually done with some clients is offer that as a benefit, and they have another benefit package they could take that has either the cash value and let them do it on their own. Now, again, there's some legality behind it that you got to look into and all that good stuff. That's for Camden and all the CPAs. To look into. But I think when you really push and push comes to shove, the companies that are offering the ridiculous benefits, it's kind of like, hey, don't look at the bad stuff over here, which is your job, which is the manager you're going to have to work with, which is the team which is the job you're going to have to do. At least the military, Otis, I'm sure you can feel, at least they're honest about what you're doing. At least they used to be, right? Like, at least they're telling you what you're going to be getting yourself into, and they don't sugarcoat it. So when it's too good to be true, I always tell people just look at it, back off. But if you're an owner of a company, you think you're going to get high quality talent because your benefit package is better. If you're providing a bad work environment, they don't care about the benefit package.
Yeah, that's so true. And, the irony is the military doesn't tell you unless you ask.
Oh, really?
Yes, there are, because I talk with guys all the time. There are many, 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 many things that, we're talking through something and they go, oh, I didn't know, it's not like you got a letter in the mail that says, hey, congratulations, we hear your wife is pregnant and we want to make sure that you get your full benefits and take those 6 weeks off for being a brand new dad.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, and
you have to ask.
And I think what comes of it, and this is not knocking everyone. There's another client of ours who has an amazing benefit package, and the medical offering, what they offer, it's through the roof. It's mental health, it's genetic health, it's rare disease health, which for me is a big deal with my daughter's situation. So I'm not knocking everyone who does it, but we know who we are. If we're selling a bag of garbage, trying to make it look nice, it doesn't work well. So where there's smoke, there's fire, and live that out your whole life.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted I did work for a company that had awesome medical package. At the time I worked for them, they were paying every single employee full medical coverage.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was 12, 13, somewhere around there. And there was 800 plus people in that company.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh, it was definitely a unicorn. They were acquired many years ago, and they stopped doing that too because that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, but you know what was interesting to stay with the culture aspect. I can remember shortly before I left, they did a survey, and I don't remember what the options were, but the results, because I got to see the results because of the position I was in, and the results were people would rather keep the health coverage than some other, like an extra 5 days of vacation or something like that. And that was a really interesting perspective when you think about it.
Yeah. And it's perceived value. That's where it is. That's what you're offering. You're offering a perceived value to somebody. But again, don't put lipstick on a pig. Be honest, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Culture will sniff it out.
And that's one of the things whenever we talk culture, I think it's an interesting piece to bring up because the business doesn't happen in a vacuum. Everything that we are talking about and that all these other podcasts are talking about culture, it goes out there and people hear this. That's been going on for a long time. So they know all the buzzwords they need to be saying and that kind of stuff. And so what you wind up getting is a lot of companies that wind up talking all the right things, but they don't really do anything. Just like you were talking about with the benefits there. What do you think? I guess a two-parter there. One, what do you think it takes to sniff that out and to fix that? And then two, it's like how can we legitimize that a bit more? Because that's the frustrating thing. We talk about culture, we talk about these things, and we can say, like, look, I see it's changing. There's a lot of businesses that are changing and doing better. But then there's also a lot of them that are just faking the hell out of it. And that's going to degrade trust with all the employees and those kind of things. What do you make of that, Matt?
So regardless of the size of the company, the culture is not based on the collective whole. It's based on the individual character of each person. So what we do is we come in is we don't try to address the collective whole. That's a mess. We've seen countries try to do that. It doesn't work. What works always is addressing the individual's actions, characters, and decision and letting them elevate themselves up. And when they elevate themselves up, you're not going to believe what happens. The entire group elevates. So I think with that is understanding your culture is either directed or it's accepted. Those are like the two options, meaning it's accepted, whatever happens, happens, or it's directed, meaning, hey, this is what our expectations are. I like to use my wife as an example for this. I am so blessed to be married to a woman who has standards that I would argue are almost impossible. And I would say this if she was sitting right here. Why do I love that? Is because it keeps our marriage at a top priority. As it should be, but it's very easy to not be. And I'm not saying that in a bad thing. Again, I've talked about this with her. I talk about it publicly because it's a very good thing. But we don't set standards and expectations high enough. We've accepted that status quo is bare minimum. Like if I'm not good, or if I'm not bad, therefore I'm now good. That is not a logical statement, but in today's world it is. If I don't beat my wife, I'm now a good husband. No, that just means you don't beat your wife. Let's get real with it. And the same has happened with culture. Well, our culture is not bad. Doesn't mean it's good. And nothing is ever stable. So if it's not going good, it's going bad. It's moving one way or the other. How do you sniff it out? It's about you and how you're adding to it, regardless of where the culture is. When we started working with a large company, I don't like to use all the negative experiences with names, but let's say you were looking for something online. And when we were working with a company like that out in California, one of the biggest realizations that I realized, which was a surprise to me, was that the individuals feel like the company's job is to serve them. Why is that the case? Because the culture industry that I tend to fall into, although I don't want to be a part of, the culture industry has made this myth that as a business owner and as a business, it's our job to bridge the gap to all of our employees. If you have a small business with one other person, you might be able to do it, but I doubt that can happen. So when we went out there, we had a conversation. We were working on work-life balance with this organization, which was strange because they're the ones who created the kegerator and the ping pong table and all that stuff. What tended to happen was the individuals, as I was interviewing them and we were going through our coaching program, they felt either enslaved or entitled. And in doing so, the issue was, wait a minute, we're trying to bridge these gap back to the people. What if we properly equip the people to bridge the gap back to the company? So if you're an employee coming into this, you're going, man, how do I just get this culture is just a mess? How do I get involved? It is your job as the individual to bridge the gap back to the company. As the company, it is our job to create a strong foundation, pay them what we said we would pay them, and equip them so they could bridge the gap back to us. There's a whole process we do to do it, but that's the mindset that I realized we've been learning and teaching culture wrong since this was a thing 20 years ago, right? It's become embarrassing almost. So why can't we get our employees to do anything? Well, you don't hold them to do anything. You're babysitting them and you're calling it management. And then you're managing and you're calling it leadership. Those are three very different ways of handling people that need to be described, defined, and called out. I was working with another company, same concept about this babysitting. And I was on the phone with him. He was an SVP of retail, and he was flying out to go talk with Target. Different company, but big company in the tech space. And he's like, hey, I have to go with this individual because he has a meeting with Target. And I said, why are you going with him? Well, because it's a big meeting with Target. I said, yeah, but he's the Target guy. Yeah, but just in case. I said, well, why are you paying him? Like, just cut him. He's not needed if you need to go with him. And it was the concept of babysitting over management, which is the majority of what corporate managers are doing right now, is babysitting their people. And why are people not growing up? Because the babysitter's still taking care of them.
Yeah.
How much of that goes back to just a lack of buy-in? And I think obviously, it's like the leadership has to get the buy-in. There's a responsibility there, but that seems like that's the key mechanism that creates that, that idea of entitlement there. Would you agree with that?
I don't know if it's yes, I agree it's lack of buy-in, but what's the cause of that? I think the cause of the lack of buy-in is the lack of direction, the lack of clear expectation, the lack of understanding of what are we doing this for? Where's the value in this? And what happens is people don't value the progress and the process behind it. They think the goal is the finish line. Maria one time told me that I had no physical goals. She was joking around, but not really. I don't like to work out. I don't know if you do. I hate every second of it. She loves it. I don't get an endorphin high, but she's like, you don't have any physical goals. How can you teach on this? I was like, all right, Google, what's the hardest thing for somebody to do? And this thing called an Ironman popped up. So I signed up not knowing what it was, right? This is kind of how our relationship works.
You were that naive. You didn't know what an Ironman
I knew of it, right? I knew it was hard, but like, you're just running, swimming, and biking. I've done that before. I've never done it all back to back to back. So as I'm signing the death warrant, that basically at the end you got to sign like, I will not die in the swim, I will not die on the run, I will not die on the bike. I was like, wow, man, they're really taking this seriously. I'm so focused on proving her wrong. I'm not thinking maybe I should take this seriously. Sign up for a couple months from now to figure this thing out. And the reality of it was I learned. That's
a tight training timeline. I want to point that out.
Yeah, very much so. But I also found out when you're training for an Ironman, because again, I knew none of this. You don't train like all year round. You basically train for a couple months before because the training's so intense. And all you're doing for the other months is keeping your stamina if you're racing. I wasn't racing. I was proving a point, right? It just happened to be a 144-mile point. But all that being said.
Be a big motivator for a husband, proving the point.
Absolutely. Turns out Maria didn't care at all. Right. The moral of the story was I was pushing this on myself. So anyway, as we're going through with it, crossing the finish line of an Ironman has absolutely no value without the race. So you can walk across the finish line all day long. And I think that's where the issue comes in is everyone is so obsessed with achieving and no one cares about success. And we need to make sure we understand there's a reason we're doing this. There's a reason we have this process in place. There's a reason we're focusing. And the problem is leaders and managers don't know how to articulate why we're doing what we're doing. That's why I say I love my wife, and I love that she always has had these high standards on how we're going to be nice to each other. We're going to support each other. We're going to love each other. We're going to enjoy spending time with each other. Even if we don't want to enjoy spending time, there's standards that we're not going to let the bar drop. And because of that, I'm very grateful for what our relationship is. And we take that same concept into the workplace of, you have to articulate what are the expectations, but then the key also is you have to properly equip your people to be able to live up to the expectations.
Why is it so prominent that leadership fails at it in business? And I'll caveat that, and the reason I said in business is, in my experience, in my 25 years in the Army, Even though, yes, I was in a special category of the Army, we knew what the outcome was. We knew what was expected of us. It was written down in 98% of the operations I went on. It was written down what was expected of me. Why is it so just, it's a freaking void in the business world? Why is that?
A person who's coming onto our team is actually a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force right now. He's going to come on and start training with us once he gets to his full retirement. And I had him come out to work with a client. And the things we were teaching the client, I asked him a question. I said, hey, if someone comes up prepared to a meeting, what happens? And he looks at me and he goes, I don't get it. I'm like, no, like they're not prepared. And he literally couldn't comprehend that as a situation. He's like, that happens. Like you don't make it through year one at the academy in the Air Force. So why is it so different there? Is lives aren't on the line is the first thing, but then you got to go deeper into that of number one, the individuals, the way you get ahead in the corporate world has not been based on merit. It's based on, did you play the game the way you're supposed to? So that's the first thing. So we got to take large corporate politics aside if we're talking about small businesses. Why don't people do it? Because when you set standards, you have to hold people to it. That's the real reason I find. My wife doesn't accept I have to work longer. It's not an acceptable answer. Does that make sense? Now, again, I'm making her sound like she's like the Gestapo here. It's a lovely situation.
She just
right?
off camera.
Exactly, right? If I blink twice, right, you'll know. But I use it as such a great example because we let our standard drop. And we don't want to put a measurement on something because what if I fail? That's also like the people who don't want to go to the doctor because you might find out you have cancer. The news, the information is not what changes the reality. The lack of hitting a metric is not what causes the failure. But when we do see and set bars and set metrics and set them clear, we can actually address it. So when we work with clients, we tell people there's not necessarily success and failure. There's just results. We want to do $1 million. Cool. We did 1.5. Let's compare the two. We did better than we thought. We want to do $1 million. We did $500,000. Let's compare the two. And what do we need to change and what do we need to do? It's all about understanding progress. And progress has to be quantifiable and progress has to be seen along the way. So to answer your question, again, a little more direct. Sorry, I like to talk about this stuff a lot. It's the fact that we have found that people are not as brave. They are more cowardly than they like to pretend. Number one, especially leaders. Number two is we don't understand the difference between being nice and being kind, right? Nice is kind of, you won't laugh at me if my fly's down. That's being nice. A kind person will awkwardly come up and say, hey, dude, your fly's down, right? Kind takes honesty. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is they just don't know. They don't have a direction. They haven't sat back and said, you know what? What do we want to do this quarter? What do we want to do this year? And they're so obsessed with perfection, they can't even think of it. We have a client of ours in a blue-collar business is what I'll say. Sometimes my clients listen to these, so I have to be careful who I share what with. And our goal for him, he's a smaller client, but he's a good client, is to get to $4 million in the next 5 years, right? To gain $4 million. So he's got about 2, so to get about 6. And it's a certain multiple he gets in his industry when he sells. It's a certain amount of time, and it's strategically where it needs to be. And it was so hard for him to write out this plan. It was easy for him to tell it to me, but hard to put it on paper. And I kept asking him, I said, why? And he said, because now it's real. That's why I think people aren't comfortable. That's why in the military, when you're put on a mission, it's life or death. We better have this on paper because we got to answer for why we lost X amount of men. Or we got answers to why X happened or Y happened. And we need to know that we thought through it. It's not necessary in the corporate world. I call it the corporate shuffle. It's like hot potato. It's off my desk. It's on Cam's desk. It's no longer my issue. It's a disaster.
I sent the email.
Bingo. I tried. Did you get? Nope. Then go again.
And I think that's so true. I think that I keep thinking back to rugby and Dad, you talking about it's like why does this exist so much in business? I've seen it in the rugby coaching world, and sports is one of the more meritocracy, where are we going? One of the more merit-based places that you could go a lot of the time. Sports is usually that. And there's plenty of folks out there who can't give the hard feedback. They can't tell people that they're not good enough for this thing and that kind of stuff. And when I think, and Matt, I would love to hear your opinion on this, because what I've always felt to me is, number one, you have to do them the service of being honest with them. That's the most important thing. But then number two, if you're a good communicator, a good leader, you can explain it to them in a way that doesn't make them feel like a piece of shit. Like, I can just be like, dude, you can't tackle. Hey, straight up, Matt. Hey, love you, man. I hope you don't quit. I want to spend all 4 years with you at U of A, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to do great. But God, man, you know you can't tackle, right? Like, you're freaking terrible at it. It's like, oh, yeah, coach, I got you. It's like, all right, cool. Let's work on some stuff. And it's like becomes this thing where it's like, I can level with you on that, but you take the like personal attack out of it. And I think that's where people struggle, is they don't have the communication skills to remove the personal component of it. What do you think of that, Matt?
So the only way I found to remove personal attacks is speak from experience or ask questions. That's it. Any statement you make can be changed, switched, flipped, hurt, whatever it might be. It's basically truth speaking to a wound, right? So even if you have the best intention and you're speaking truth and you hit a wound, it's going to hurt. But if you're also speaking from a wound, it's going to hurt, right? So it's kind of like this venomous. So one thing I focus on is self-discovery. I want people to discover the reality themselves. And I would rather take my time to help Cam, you get to a personal understanding that you're not good at tackling. Now, enough times in me walking you through this, I can then come to you because I built up the relationship. I broke down what we call motivational walls. And I can go, Cam, tackling's garbage. And you'll go, all right, thanks, coach. And you're cool with it because you know my intentions, you know my heart. You know I'm coming from love, and I'm speaking to you in a loving way. Love doesn't mean nice. That's what I'm saying. Like, love means kind. And it's hard to be kind in today's world. So the first thing is, number one, if you're offended, that's your fault. I tell people that we do a whole thing on offense is something that we collect. Like, if you say something, Cam or Otis, I say, oh, here's what we do. And you're like, that's a terrible idea. And I get offended by that. That's not on you. That's on me. Offense is my issue, not your issue. And what happens is then if I'm holding that offense and I'm not forgiving, there's a great line that it's almost like I'm sitting here, drinking poison, hoping it's going to hurt you. Like, you don't care. You're past it. Now I'm sitting there going, man, those two guys are jerks and they did this. And you guys are like, what are we having for lunch? Like, the day's gone. So we run into this issue that, are you willing to ask questions? And we tell people that the key to this is asking the right questions to get them to come to the right answer. And a lot of people are like, man, but that just takes too long. I ask people all the time, there's two ways to motivate people. There's love-based motivation and fear-based motivation. Love-based motivation is based on understanding. Fear-based motivation is based on force. Fear-based motivation is, Otis, I'm sure you felt a little bit of that in the military, right? Like, you do it because I say to, or you do it or you'll die, right? Those are your options. You listen to me or you go against the enemy, one or the other. Love-based is based on understanding. And I always ask this question to clients, which takes longer? Almost every person, gut reaction is understanding takes longer. My response is, it depends on who you're talking to. And usually fear or force-based motivation, which is our default, takes longer over time. Because the second I pull the gun away that's causing you to do something, you're no longer going to do it. So the constant impact of force is needed. Love-based motivation based on understanding leads to self-discovery. And because of that, I have found understanding actually takes up less time during the relationship than the force. If anyone's listening and has a son or a daughter who's over the age of 18 and still lives at home, right? You understand the concept of you are going to invest. You either invest up front or you invest forever. That's the option. So to answer your question, ask questions. And to figure out what do we do from that, once you have a relationship, then you can make more direct conversations. But you have to break down those motivational walls, because it's not only things that you say that causes people to not respond properly, but it's also what's happened in their whole life. The way their dad talked to them, the way their mom talked to them, the way their coach when they were a kid talked to them. Like, you have no clue what you're dealing with. So by asking questions, and then the other one is sharing experiences. Hey, I don't know how you guys do it, but here's what I experienced. You can't argue experience. You can argue opinion. So I think you should. I'll go to town on that. But when I did this is what I got. I can think that's not pertinent to what we're talking about, but I can't claim that's not true.
No, that's great. And just to continue to make Camden feel bad about missing the Steel Men Tribe call this morning. That was a thread that we discussed. As a matter of fact, I'll give shout out to Jim because he brought up that phrase, seek first to understand. Because there's a blocker that comes up as humans when you start to get attacked, no matter how thick you say your skin is and how much you've been through this and how much you're open to it. When somebody comes up to you and says your baby is ugly, mm-hmm. you're going to go, damn, yeah, it is. Right. That sucks. Mm-hmm. Right. And you go into almost a fight or flight sort of scenario. Whereas if we're talking about, well, that youngest son of yours, Otis, what do you think about him? I mean, is he ever going to be able to get anything or do anything right? I mean, can he ever catch a high ball in rugby or
still waiting on that?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's 100% in that defense mechanism that we all have, no matter what you say, which really spinning it back around gets me to you talk about root cause, and I'm a huge believer in that. And I love that, one of my biggest frustrations with the medical industry is root cause analysis that does not exist. But it doesn't exist in a lot of things. We all want to take a pill to treat a symptom. How are you helping your clients get to that root cause? Because that's where shit's really happening.
Yeah. So there's a couple experiences that have really led us to not accept symptomatic solutions, which is what we call it. My daughter, Natalie, we talked about her a little bit, has a very rare genetic disorder, 17th to ever be diagnosed. Her muscles just don't work the way that ours do. So she's been in a wheelchair her whole life. She's 8 years old now. Since she was 3, she was in a wheelchair. So one time she went through, it was about a 10-month period. We were in the hospital for 9 separate week stays over once a month, once a week. It was just grueling, right? I was doing keynotes from the hospital, coaching calls from the hospital, and it's just kind of how our life is. Does that make sense? So if we do another podcast, it might not be this background, but we still roll with it because that's how what God put in our life, and we don't have a choice. But it's been a blessing. This time was a scary time because one of the doctors said, "Hey, don't Google it, but you might want to look into palliative care." And I was like, well, obviously, as he's saying, don't Google it.
Don't push the red button, right? That's what he said.
So we Google it, not knowing, I had no clue what palliative care was. But for those who don't know, it's for hospice, is where it's the most regularly known concept. And I'm sitting there going, looking at my daughter. She seems like she's alive, but what is he trying to tell me? Do we need to prepare for her to be is this the end? And that's why they're like, well, that's why we told you don't Google. I was like, well, why didn't you just not tell us about it? Just what are you trying to say? Now, palliative care is a symptomatic solution, meaning there is no solution, there is no cure. It's to make it easy. So for kids with rare diseases, there's a whole other level of palliative care that most people don't know about, but it's things like therapy for them, therapy for their siblings, help for their parents, respite for the parents, right? So it's we can't solve the cause, but we can help with what you're dealing with. So it's oh, that is so much nicer. Give me a flyer next time that says it's not hospice. So long story short, communication in the medical world is not so good. Symptomatic solutions has always been a problem. Root cause is what we have to focus on. You've heard me say it a couple times. Otis, you brought it up. The way I describe it is how our business started. So we had huge companies reach out to us, and they would all give us different problems. Hey, our workload's intense. Can you come help us? Sure, we come help. Use the same solution we did with everything. Everything we do is systematic. Everything we do has the same basic of tools that we adapt for the industry or the individual we work with. Then we get reached out to for time management. Then we get reached out to for communication and management, all these different topics, but we would give the exact same solution. And what I found was these companies were reaching out to us to try to solve for a symptom. What our system does, it solves for the root cause, which is the people. People aren't the problem. People have problems, and that's why we have people problems. The best way I can describe this is if I broke my arm and I came to you, Cam, and I said, Cam, my arm hurts. Can you please fix the pain? And you gave me a painkiller. It would fix the pain, for about 20 minutes. But the problem is not actually solved. What needs to happen is my bone needs to be reset, which might even hurt more than when I broke it. Then I put a cast on it, and amazingly enough, when things are intentionally put where they are and the right structure is put around it, it heals itself. Humans are the same way. We do well with structure. Structure brings freedom and rhythm brings peace. But yet we fight it all the time because we don't want to be constrained. If you think about how the universe works, we work well because the universe works in systems. If the universe did not work in the systems that it was created to work in, we'd be dead. We need it to do what it was doing. We work in systems well. Why don't people want to follow systems? Like we talked about earlier, they don't want to be restrained because they don't want to be held accountable. Number two is they don't see the value in them. The second one is what we do with clients right away. The biggest thing, if you were trying to change someone, you need to get proof. Now, proof is not the concept that we talk about proof all over here. I'm talking about proof meaning evidence and experience combined, or education and experience combined to create evidence. There is evidence that this pen and paper planning system that we use makes sense. There is evidence that working with you guys, in the tribes, that there's evidence that it makes sense. That's what I mean by proof. We have to get them to that as soon as possible. So if you're sitting here going, hey, we're going to try this for 30 days and I'm not going to come back and check in on you at all to remind you that we're doing it and to remind you that it's working, because what I'm going to do as a leader is I'm going to say, well, they should just do their job. We don't like to should on people, right? Don't should on me. I won't should on you. We need to stop shooting on everybody. And that's the concept that I want to go and actually investigate and make sure it happens. So a couple things. Root cause analysis, figuring out why is this happening? What is actually causing the symptom? The way we do it is we just have 5 whys. Why? Okay. Why that? Okay. Why that? Okay. Why that? Okay. Why that? After 5 whys deep, you're probably pretty close, if not at the root cause of why employee A, B, and C is not doing their job. And it's not always related to work. It's also rarely related to ability. Rarely related to ability. It's usually attitude or environment, not ability. If it's an ability issue, you have a hiring problem, which I think the world has beat that out of us enough, right? Like, we all know we got to hire a little better. I get that. But once you hire that individual, what happens if they're having marital issues? What's happened if physically they have bad situations? What happens if their daughter is in a wheelchair and wakes up 7 times a night and they're tired coming into work? You see, we don't realize the things that are causing these main issues because we don't have a system in our business that allows the person to be fully seen. And please, if you don't get it by now, I'm not talking the kumbaya 6-month, daddy days off. I'm talking the reality of the fact that humans are humans and they want to be valued. And the way they're valued is when they experience fulfillment. And what are we doing as leaders? Helping equip them to experience fulfillment. You get your people experiencing fulfillment, the job's not the issue. It never is. It never is.
Talking about getting to the root cause of these problems makes me think that it's like one of the really interesting things to balance as a leader is that if you talk just to the root cause and they're in pain because their arm's broken or whatever it is, then they will not always listen to that because you're denying where they are now. Could you talk some about how you really, for lack of a better way to put it, you give them a spoonful of sugar that takes care of the symptom, gives them over the next couple days or whatever it is. It goes, yes, you are valid. Yeah, you're right. That's a problem. But then meanwhile, you're working on the actual stuff going on in the background. How do you balance that?
I would not hold back a solution if it could help them with the pain, unless the pain's necessary. And what I mean by that is there's a certain level of experience that you have when you're in a hard situation that actually builds character and hope and persistence, right? So there's an element of that. If you came to me and your arm was broken, I wouldn't be like, nope, sorry, let's set it back, right? Like I got the morphine here, but I'm not giving it, right? That is not, I don't think, is part of the learning of it. So individual comes to me, let's just use an example, and they have a bad call with the salesperson or a client, right? And because of that, the client's about to leave. So I'm upset because I'm about to lose a huge client, but the individual's coming to me humbly going, man, I messed up. I don't really know what it is. I don't know how it is. What I might say is, hey, I'm going to give the client a call real quick because I have a close relationship with them. That's the sugar. Does that make sense? That's the morphine. That's the pain. Hey, John, I know this happened. What can we do to fix it? Okay, cool. We're calm. We're good. Great. Now I can come and work with Brian and get back where we need to be. All right, here's what we did wrong. Here's what we can't do. But what we tend to do is symptom comes, we attack the symptom, and the damage is happening and it's now spreading. We have to address the key issue, right? If I have a broken finger and I got blood coming out my artery, don't worry about the finger. We'll get to the finger in a second. We have to make sure we address it. So the other part of this is, as you're listening, you can't sit there and be like, oh, that was a great idea. I'm going to all of a sudden change the 15 years of who I've been to now be this person who's going to be more direct or different. It takes time. We call this reactive reflection. One of the issues is most people don't reflect on who they are. The next issue is no one acts on the reflection they have, right? So, yeah, I was a jerk. Cool. What's next? That's not good. I mean, cool. Congratulations. You've recognized it, but you didn't do anything about it. So the first is we need to actually reflect, right? Think through what's happened. We need to realize what's happening. We need to repent, and then we need to redo. And that redo is long. We have a client of ours who, had a rough go for about 10 years. They drastically changed their life. Individuals still see the old version of them. And it's real hard for him. And I have to remind him, hey, you've been doing it for 10 years. These last 10 months, I know you're mentally where you need to be, but they still see the old you. That redo aspect is crazy important when it comes to making change. If I've always been a jerk, now I'm not a jerk. And all of a sudden I'm going, all right, Otis and Cam, trust me, I'm not a jerk anymore. You're like, come on, dude. Like, just wait till the next shoe drops. So that's the element of it. You have to build the relationship to be able to be so direct, to be able to make comments, almost offhanded, backhanded comments and jokes. But the key, honestly, is as a leader in this situation is understanding the difference between lifting people up and edifying people. Like we think our job is to lift people up. I can hold someone. I bet you I could hold one of you guys for maybe 30 to 60 seconds pretty comfortably, right? And then all of a sudden, it's hard to keep you up. But if I can edify you, which means build you up versus lift you up, all of a sudden, I don't need to hold on to you. You're at the level I need you to be. Now I can go to the next person. If we as leaders went around edifying people, not lifting up, not dragging, not picking up, edifying, building up, the whole sea rises. And when a high tide, all boats rise.
Yeah, I love that because it's so true. There's this problem that I think people in leadership position have, and it's the microwave theory. I was going to say microwave generation, but it's broader than the microwave generation. Somebody's saying hello.
Can you hear him? He might be coming for me. Let me send that text to Maria.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Miss Clem. She's already made a couple appearances on the show, so the voice in the background is quite fine.
It's a family show.
Yeah, very much so. It's my son. I'm trying to be the same dynamic, but yeah, you can hear him. They can hear you, Ted.
Yeah. Hey, buddy.
So.
Where the hell was I?
You want me to go? I got one.
Yeah, you go, because I lost that. Whenever kids pop up, I'm
sorry.
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Oh, it's a good
one. No, the thing that I keep thinking about is, it's us talking about culture and standards and, making sure they're understood with the team and how important that is, right? I want to dive into a specific thing. Not that there's no standard, not that the company is that far gone, but let's say they have pretty good standards and that standard needs to go up a lot higher. I think that, to me, is a slightly different problem. So I went through this with U of A with my forwards this year. I remember before one of our playoff games going to them. It's like, hey, boys, do you think this is good? Yeah, it's really good. Coach, awesome. Hey, is really good enough to win a championship? No, it's not. It's got to be fucking perfect, boys. And this moment of hey, no, we got to get together and elevate this again. We've done a great job to get to this point, but we've got to keep going. And I think it's a little bit of the shifting of the goalposts that can be hard on the team. What do you think is the key to elevating that standard and keeping the buy-in?
Yeah, so they're called SIPs, strategic inflection points. The way I look at this was we were working with the Atlanta airport, and actually the CEO was the one who introduced this to me, right? So it's a common concept, but the way you think of it is like a bell curve. So as we're going with the bell curve, before it starts curving back down, as a good leader, we need to put another curve another bell curve to start going back up, right? So they get a second to kind of relax at the top. They get to celebrate and be at that plateau. But we bring them back up. But the other bigger question is, why do we need to get better? What is the reason? Is it because we want to win a national championship? And if it is, then yes, we need to get better. We're not where we need to be. But if it's just because we got to get better, and that's one of the things I think that leads to burnout, is this constant desire for more. There's a difference between being content and accepting. I accept my daughter's condition. I'm not content with it, though. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to, if there's an option, we're going to take it, but there's no option. There's no cure to what she has. It is absolutely incurable at this moment. So I need to be okay accepting, all right, this is where we are. If we were to make it okay of like, hey, here are the standards, we hit our goals. We don't need to reset it every single time and go bigger. Now, I'm all for growth. I love growth. But I think we force that on people that's not needed. My brother, my little brother, I always joke, him and I are polar opposites. He's going to live a very happy life according to what he wants. But he's not going to do the level of things that I feel I'm going to do. But at the same time, I'm bringing so much extra stress on me, on my family, on my kids, and he's good. Now, when you look at it, you go, man, why don't you do more? And the answer he gives to me is, why do you do so much? And I couldn't answer it. So it's that element of understanding it. And that's why what we focus on is there's 4 levels of performance: lazy, unaware, high potential, high performance. That's what everyone talks about, those 3. The 4th one is where we get every single one of our clients. And that's from high potential to what we call optimal potential, or optimal performance. So high performance to optimal performance. The difference between these two are subtle but drastic. A high performer is high output, unsustainable pace compared to others. That's what a high performer is. And that is what's rewarded. Hey, top salesperson in the company. Oh, is that good? The rest of them are garbage, right? Fastest slow person doesn't make you fast, right? We talked about this with the good and bad. Same concept. And then it's the concept of you're going to burn out. I'm not impressed by someone who can run a 50-yard dash if we're trying to run a marathon. In fact, it is extremely foolish if we are trying to run a marathon and you're running at a 50-yard dash pace. So optimal performance, same high output at a sustainable pace compared to one's own ability. The reason I want everyone to get to optimal is if I get myself to optimal performance and I can't run with a national championship rugby team, I got to go. I'm not to be part of that team. That's what helps us not fire people, but free people when we work with clients. Hey, you've done great. It's just not going to work, and it's not healthy for you to be in this environment. So we're not going to drag you with us. We're going there. It's not going to work for you. We've equipped you to maximize every part of your life, and we'd be happy to help you go where you should be. But if you're not interested in going 1,000,000 miles a minute, we're going to put you somewhere. We're going to get you the best job you can at 50 miles an hour. And I'm okay with that. And we have to be okay with that. Not everyone needs to go after it. The grinded out mentality is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Do you know what happens when you grind something? Eventually, it's nothing. Sharpen mentality, I guess I could argue that one. That makes sense to me, but it's still breaking it down to almost nothing. The concept of the hustle culture, all of that stuff, I get it on its surface, but when it becomes the religion, it becomes extremely damaging. Instead, I want to know who's going to run with me. Who can I edify? Who can I build up? Now, how do you do this at scale? You combine intention and structure to get that perpetual development. You need systems in place to do this. We as humans are not capable of self-regulation the way we tend to pretend to. The reason I built this planner, this one over my shoulder here, everyone's like, oh man, if I was organized like you, I'd have a planner. I'm like, no, you don't get it. I'm a train wreck. I'm an absolute monster in here. Like, this makes no sense until I get it on paper and I put it together like a puzzle. Then I can approach the week with a strategy. So I don't know that again, it kind of comes back around to it of when we're pulling people to something like that, like we got to be better, we got to get going. The question I always ask leadership is, do we really? So like, for example, you see all these people online, oh, we make $100,000 a month. We make $200,000 a month. I know a lot of people who make multi-million dollars a year, but they spend multi-million dollars a year plus one and they make no money. Revenue doesn't impress me. High performance doesn't impress me. Profit impresses me. The lifestyle impresses me. Does that make sense? So that's where I focus, and that's where we keep our team, and that's why it's sustainable. And the goal, Atomic Habits is a great book if you haven't read it. But one of the lines in there that has always hit me is the goal is it's not short-term intensity, it's long-term consistency. Because that's how we build sustainable options.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I still say one of my experiences early on in the military, the Army, was the Army established the up or out policy. And I still think that's in many, many skill sets in the military, the Army, I'll speak to specifically. That is so wrong. Just because somebody's been it's the old salesman, the top sales performer becoming the manager. It doesn't always work. I mean,
no.
Golly, and the Army screwed that up 30 some odd years ago when, I had the best bucket loader operator, in the United States Army. He can make that thing do cartwheels with his eyes closed and hands tied behind his back. Guess what? He's no longer the operator. He's now in charge.
Yep.
And boy, what a shit show that was. I love him, but he sucked.
A great example of that I think is on a big scale is, if you ever read the book Predictable Revenue, it's a story about Salesforce. And what Salesforce, the CRM, did to become such a powerhouse was all of a sudden, these BDRs and SDRs, right, the actual cold callers, they gave them a new title, and they started treating them like they were the top salespeople. Why? Because they're the ones driving the top of the funnel. Mm-hmm. And that was where the whole concept of top of the funnel came from, was Salesforce. So, forget what you're seeing online, whoever acts it. Go read the book Predictable Revenue. And no matter what your industry is, you'll understand the concept of like, no, man, that bucket loader, hey, you're great. I'm going to keep you here. In fact, you're so good that what we do is we put every person we work with in one of two categories, bringing that into the business. You are either a revenue generator or a cost saver. When I look at people with one of those two things, I can bonus on it. So now I don't need to just bonus my sales reps. I can bonus my admin. Why? Because I'm paying them, let's say, whatever dollar per hour. I know today's world it's bad to say low. Let's say $1 an hour just so everyone gets upset, right? Let's say we're paying them. And if they're able to do 110% of that assumed time frame, you're making money for the company by being efficient in an hourly position. Now, all of a sudden, I can actually equate that and bonus on that. Let's say we bring AI into this for small businesses. What are we doing with AI with every single client of ours? Take this and run with it because it's going to get you in front of the curve. We are telling people, hey, bonus your people for giving proven SOPs, so suggested operating procedures, right? Not standardized yet, on how they're leveraging AI to do their job. And if they are able to get X times the output, maybe it's 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, because that's really what this is doing, bonus them. If somebody can do 10x the work because now they're using a system that you didn't have to pay for, but they're doing 10 times the work, does it not make sense to pay them a salary and a half? Now, at first, you're like, man, that's nuts. No, that's just math. That's a huge win. So instead of sitting here going, is AI going to replace everything, which it still might, right? Jury's very much out on. I'm not like, I've seen the Terminator and I see signs, right? But all that being said, this is a tool that's already in place. We just now have access to it. It's been in place for years. We just now have access to it as small business owners. So because of that, are we encouraging our people to leverage that and teaching them how to use that? It's like when the calculator came in, you're like, no, we're not going to use that. It's the same guys who didn't want to use the horse and plow. You can fight it all day long, but it will give us the ability to do more with less. And as a small business, it's game changing. But you want to use it as a tool, not an idol. And that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's a huge difference. And as a optimal performer and wanting to continue to learn what I learn, I've got a couple of things that are both foot stompers for me in nice versus kind. Great reminder there. And then structure brings freedom. I think people forget that all the time. And we talk about it here at the Tribe and Purpose and various things of how systems and structures enable you to do so much more. So that's what I learned. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
I was going to say, take it back to high school rugby. You coach and talk about flexibility. You have to have the system in order to be flexible out of the system, right? And that's where you can really perform at a high level. But no, the thing for me, I think, and we joke about the golden rule around communication and those kind of things. But I think today it was really more so not just communication, but on a more specific level, like relationships and how important the relationships are to that core of leadership and having that rapport with somebody, really understanding them and really understanding yourself and how much easier that makes the communication process and how much of a positive impact they can have on culture. I think that was really interesting. So yeah, just focusing on the relationship side of things.
Awesome.
Good.
Matt, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
Anytime I get a chance to, sit down and let iron sharpen iron, it's fun, right? You guys do amazing work. What I got out of this, just that reminder of in the military, we have clear instructions. And why is it? It's because we value the mission and how easy it is for us and me in my business with my team to not value the mission and not value the lives of the people who are impacted by the mission. Instead, just going, hey, we're going this way. You're going to catch along or you won't make it with us. Just reminding ourselves that these are people who are risking their lives, spending their time, things they can't get back on us. I think the least we can do is give them clear direction, set the standard, and then equip them to do what they need to do. So that's my takeaway from this whole kind of three-way conversation, but it's super impactful.
Awesome. Matt, how do folks find you and learn more about Life Pulse?
Yeah, so feel free. Reach out on any social media at lifepulseinc.com. And what we'll do is we'll take some of the solutions that we put on and we'll put it onto one of our pages. If you go to lifepulseinc.com/CO, C for Cam, O for Otis, you can get access to that. Like I said, we'll put some free resources up there that you can get a hold of. But Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, we're very busy on, and we're just grateful to be a part of it. Anything we can do to help, let us know. We'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Matt, been a pleasure having you here. We really appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Matt Granados, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.